The rain begins to fall just as Elena Martinez steps out of the hotel ballroom, her heels clicking against the marble floor with a rhythm that matches her racing heart. She does not look back. She cannot look back. Not after what just happened. Not after the words that still echo in her ears like broken glass. Humiliated at her husband's birthday, she leaves in silence, without knowing it was the Mafia Boss. The champagne still clings to the fabric of her emerald dress, the one she spent 3 months saving for because Marcus said he wanted her to look perfect tonight. Perfect for his colleagues, perfect for his image, perfect for everyone except herself. Elena pushes through the revolving doors of the Grand Meridian Hotel in downtown Chicago, and the November wind hits her face like a slap. But it is nothing compared to the slap she felt inside that ballroom. Not a physical one. Marcus would never leave marks where people could see. His cruelty has always been more refined than that. She walks without direction, her clutch pressed against her chest, her breath coming in short, painful gasps. The city rises around her in towers of glass and steel, indifferent to her pain, indifferent to the tears that mix with the rain on her cheeks. Inside the ballroom, 200 guests had gathered to celebrate Marcus Whitfield's 40th birthday. The decorations alone cost more than Elena's annual salary as a pediatric nurse. Crystal chandeliers, imported orchids, a jazz quartet playing, standards that no one really listened to, and Marcus standing at the center of it all, accepting congratulations like a king receiving tribute. Elena had spent the entire evening by his side, smiling until her face ached, laughing at jokes that were not funny, pretending that everything was fine. That is what she has been doing for 8 years of marriage. Pretending. But tonight, something broke. It started with a comment. Such a small thing, really. Marcus was talking to a group of investors about his latest real estate development, when one of them mentioned how impressive it was that he managed to build his empire while maintaining such a beautiful family. Marcus had laughed, that cold, polished laugh that Elena had learned to dread. "Beautiful?" he had said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Eleanor is many things, but let's not exaggerate. I keep her around because she's useful. She knows how to stay quiet and not embarrass me. Most of the time." The investors had shifted, uncomfortably. Someone cleared their throat, but no one said anything. No one ever says anything. Elena had stood there, frozen, the champagne glass trembling in her hand. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the drink in his face. She wanted to tell everyone in that room what Marcus Whitfield really was behind closed doors. The controlling behavior, the constant criticism, the way he made her feel like she was nothing without him. Instead, she did what she always does. She smiled. She excused herself to use the restroom, and then she walked straight out the front door. Now she finds herself on Michigan Avenue, the famous shopping district that she used to love visiting before her life became a series of obligations and apologies. The stores are closed at this hour, their windows dark, displaying mannequins frozen in poses of artificial happiness. Elena stops walking. She realizes she has no idea where she is going. She cannot go home. Not yet. Home is Marcus's penthouse on Lakeshore Drive, a gilded cage with a view of the water that she is not allowed to enjoy. Home is where Marcus will eventually return, drunk and angry, demanding to know why she embarrassed him by leaving his party early. She has no friends left. Marcus made sure of that. Over the years, he isolated her from everyone she loved, convincing her that they were the problem, not him. Her parents are gone. Her sister moved to Seattle 3 years ago, and they have not spoken since Marcus intercepted one of her calls and told her that Eleanor did not want to see her anymore. Eleanor is alone, completely and utterly alone. She keeps walking, not caring that her designer heels are being ruined by the wet pavement, not caring that her makeup is running down her face, not caring about anything except putting distance between herself and that hotel. 3 blocks later, she turns down a side street, looking for somewhere to sit and catch her breath. That is when she sees it. A small cafe with warm light spilling from its windows, still open despite the late hour. The sign above the door reads "Nocturne" in elegant script. Elena pushes open the door, and a bell chimes softly to announce her arrival. The interior is intimate and sophisticated, with dark wood paneling, leather booths, and the low hum of jazz playing from hidden speakers. It is almost empty at this hour, a bartender polishing glasses, a couple in the corner speaking in whispers, and one man sitting alone at the bar, his back to the door. Elena takes a seat at a small table near the window, as far from the other patrons as possible. She does not want to talk to anyone. She does not want to exist. She just wants to sit in this warm, quiet space and figure out what to do next. A server approaches, a young woman with kind eyes and a name tag that reads Sophie. "Rough night?" Sophie asks, her voice gentle. Eleanor looks up, surprised by the simple act of someone noticing her. "Is it that obvious?" Sophie smiles, sympathetically. "The mascara is a bit of a giveaway. Can I get you something? On the house. Just water, please. And maybe some napkins." Sophie nods and disappears, returning moments later with a glass of water, a stack of napkins, and a small plate of biscotti that Elena did not ask for, but appreciates nonetheless. "Take your time," Sophie says. "We're open until 2. Elena spends the next hour at that table, slowly pulling herself together. She cleans her face. She drinks her water. She stares out the window at the rain and thinks about her life, about all the choices that led her to this moment. She married Marcus when she was 24. He was charming then, successful, older. He made her feel special, like she was the only woman in the world. She did not see the warning signs until it was too late. The jealousy that he disguised as love, the control that he called protection, the cruelty that he claimed was just honesty. By the time she understood what she had gotten herself into, she was trapped. No money of her own, Marcus controlled all their finances. No support system, Marcus had dismantled it piece by piece. No self-worth, Marcus had eroded it with years of calculated manipulation. But tonight, something shifted. Sitting in that cafe, watching the rain slide down the window, Eleanor feels something she has not felt in a very long time. Anger, not the suppressed, internalized anger that she has carried for years. Real anger, righteous anger, the kind that makes you want to stand up and do something, even if you do not know what that something is yet. She is 32 years old. She has a nursing degree that she has not used in 3 years because Marcus convinced her that she did not need to work. She has nothing that belongs to her, nothing except the clothes on her back and the small emergency fund she has been secretly building for the past 6 months, $3,000 hidden in an account that Marcus does not know about. It is not enough, but it is something. Elena is so lost in thought that she does not notice the man from the bar approaching until he is standing right beside her table. "Excuse me." She looks up, startled. The man is tall, perhaps 6'2", with dark hair that is slightly disheveled from the rain. His eyes are grey, the color of storm clouds, and there is something about the way he carries himself that commands attention without demanding it. He is wearing a tailored charcoal suit that probably costs more than Elena's car, but there is nothing ostentatious about him. He looks like someone who is used to expensive things, but does not feel the need to show them off. "I'm sorry to disturb you," he says, his voice low and controlled. "But I noticed you came in alone and you seem upset. I just wanted to make sure you're all right." Elena's first instinct is to dismiss him. She has had enough of men for one lifetime. But there is something in his tone that stops her. It is not predatory. It is not flirtatious. It is simply concerned. "I'm fine," she says automatically. The words taste like lies. The man raises an eyebrow slightly, as if he can hear the untruth as clearly as she can, but he does not push. "If you say so," he replies. "But if you need anything, I'll be at the bar. My name is Dominic." He turns to leave, and Elena should let him go. She should return to her water and her thoughts and her anger. But something makes her speak. "Wait." Dominic stops and looks back at her. "Why?" Elena asks. "Why would you care if a stranger is all right?" It is a genuine question, and Dominic seems to consider it carefully before answering. "Because sometimes," he says slowly, "the difference between surviving a bad night and not surviving it comes down to one person noticing that something is wrong. The words hit Elena harder than she expects. She thinks about all the nights when she wished someone would notice, all the times she silently screamed for help in a room full of people who were too busy or too polite to see. "Sit down," she says, "please." Dominic does not hesitate. He takes the seat across from her, his movements fluid and deliberate. Up close, Eleanor can see that he is older than she initially thought, probably late 30s, with fine lines around his eyes that suggest he has seen more than his share of difficult nights. "I'm Elena," she offers. "It's nice to meet you, Elena. Though I wish the circumstances were better." She almost laughs. "You and me, both." They sit in silence for a moment, and Elena finds that it is not uncomfortable. There is no pressure to fill the space with words, no expectation that she explain herself. Dominic simply waits, patient as stone. Finally, Elena speaks. "I just walked out of my husband's birthday party." "And left him there alone?" "He wasn't alone. He had 200 of his closest business associates to keep him company." The bitterness in her voice surprises her. "Besides, I don't think he's noticed I'm gone yet. He's too busy enjoying being the center of attention." Dominic nods slowly. "Sounds like a difficult marriage." "That's one word for it." "What word would you use?" Elena thinks about it. "A mistake," she says finally. "A very long, very expensive mistake." Dominic does not offer sympathy or advice. He does not tell her to leave her husband or to work things out. He just listens, really listens, in a way that Marcus never has. "The worst part," Elena continues, the words tumbling out, "now that she has started, is that I knew. Deep down I knew from the beginning that something was wrong, but I ignored it. I told myself I was being paranoid, that every relationship has problems, that he would change once we were married." She laughs bitterly. "He changed, all right, he got worse." "People show you who they are," Dominic says quietly. "The mistake isn't in believing them the first time. The mistake is in not believing them the second time." Elena looks at him, really looks at him for the first time. There is depth in those grey eyes, shadows that hint at his own difficult past. This is not a man who has lived an easy life, despite his expensive suit and polished manner. "You sound like you speak from experience," she says. "Everyone has a past," Dominic replies. "The question is whether you let it define your future." Their conversation continues, meandering through topics both serious and light. Eleanor learns that Dominic owns several businesses in Chicago, though he is vague about the specifics. He has a younger sister who lives abroad and a mother who passed away 5 years ago. He has never been married, though he was engaged once, a long time ago. "What happened?" Elena asks. "She decided that my life was too complicated for her," Dominic says. "She wasn't wrong." There is pain in those words, old pain that has scarred over, but never fully healed. Eleanor recognizes it because she carries her own version of the same wound. The hours pass without either of them noticing. The rain stops and starts again. The other patrons leave and new ones arrive. Sophie refills their drinks and brings them food that neither of them ordered, but both of them eat. By 1 in the morning, Elena feels more like herself than she has in years. There is something liberating about talking to a stranger, someone who has no preconceptions about who she is supposed to be. With Dominic, she can be honest, she can be angry, she can be broken without worrying about the consequences. "I should go," she says finally, though the thought of leaving fills her with dread. "Where?" Dominic asks. The question is simple, but they both know what he is really asking. Elena hesitates. "I don't know. A hotel, I guess. I have some money saved. Enough for a few nights while I figure out my next move." "And then what?" "I don't know that either." She tries to smile, but it does not quite work. "I've spent so long living someone else's life that I've forgotten what mine looks like." Dominic is quiet for a moment, his grey eyes thoughtful. Then he reaches into his jacket and pulls out a card, sliding it across the table to her. "If you need anything," he says, "a job, a place to stay, legal help, whatever, call that number, day or night." Eleanor picks up the card. It is simple and elegant, just a name and a phone number. No title, no company, no explanation. "Why would you do this for me?" she asks. "You don't know me." "I know enough," Dominic replies. "I know that. You're scared and alone, and that you deserve better than what you're going back to. And I know that sometimes the only thing standing between someone and a better life is a single opportunity." Eleanor stares at the card, then at the man who gave it to her. There is something happening here, something she does not fully understand, a connection that goes beyond a chance meeting in a cafe on a rainy night. "Thank you," she says. The words feel inadequate, but they are all she has. Dominic stands and buttons his jacket. "Don't thank me yet. Just promise me you'll use it if you need to." "I promise." He holds her gaze for a long moment, and Elena feels something pass between them. Not romance, not yet, but the beginning of something. Understanding, perhaps, or recognition, the sense that they are two people who have been waiting for each other without knowing it. Then Dominic nods once and walks out of the cafe, disappearing into the Chicago night. Eleanor sits alone at the table, the card still in her hand. She doesn't know that Dominic Romano is one of the most powerful men in the city. She does not know that his name is spoken in whispers among certain circles, that his reach extends into every corner of Chicago's underworld, that his word is law in places where the actual law fears to tread. She does not know that by accepting this card, by making this connection, she has just changed the trajectory of her entire life. All she knows is that for the first time in 8 years, she does not feel alone, and that is enough, for now. Elena walks out of Nocturne into the cold November air. The rain has stopped, and the city glistens under the streetlights, wet and clean and full of possibility. She takes a deep breath and starts walking toward the nearest hotel. Behind her, in the shadows across the street, a black SUV sits with its engine idling. Inside, a man with a scarred face watches Eleanor until she disappears around the corner. Then he picks up his phone. "She just left," he says. "Should I follow her?" There is a pause on the other end of the line. Then Dominic Romano's voice, calm and authoritative. "No, let her go. But keep eyes on the husband. I want to know everything about Marcus Whitfield by morning." The man in the SUV smiles slightly. "Boss, are you sure this is a good idea? Getting involved with some random woman?" "She's not random," Dominic replies. "Not anymore." He hangs up without another word, and the SUV pulls away from the curb, vanishing. Into the maze of Chicago streets, Eleanor has no idea what she has stumbled into, but one thing is certain, her life will never be the same. Check if you're already subscribed to this channel. If you're not, you're missing stories like this one, stories that stay with you long after they end. Hit that subscribe button now because you won't want to miss what happens next. The hotel room is small and unremarkable, a basic double at a mid-range chain 3 blocks from Lake Michigan. The walls are beige, the carpet is brown, the art is the kind of inoffensive abstract that exists only in places like this. But to Eleanor, it feels like a sanctuary. She spent the first night staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, waiting for Marcus to find her. His calls started around 2 in the morning, 37 of them before she turned off her phone. His texts ranged from concern to anger to threats, following the predictable pattern of a man who is losing control over something he considers his property. "Where are you?" "This isn't funny, Elena. If you don't answer me, there will be consequences. You know you can't survive without me." "I'm sorry, okay? Just come home." "Fine. See what happens when you try to leave me." Elena read each message with a strange detachment, as if they were written to someone else. For the first time, she could see them clearly, not as expressions of love or even anger, but as tools of manipulation, carefully calibrated to keep her in her place. She did not respond to any of them. Now, 2 days later, she sits on the edge of the bed, Dominic's card in her hand, debating whether to use it. She has already burned through $400 on the hotel, plus food, plus the new phone she bought, so Marcus could not track her old one. At this rate, her savings will last another week, maybe 2 if she's careful. And then what? She has no job, No references from the past 3 years, no apartment, no car, no credit cards in her own name. Marcus made sure that every aspect of her life was tied to him. She used to think it was romantic, the way he wanted to take care of everything. Now she understands it for what it was, a trap. Elena looks at the card again. Dominic Romano. The name means nothing to her, but something about the man himself does. The way he looked at her, the way he listened, the way he offered help without expectation. She picks up her new phone and dials. It rings twice before a woman answers. Romano Enterprises. How may I direct your call? Elena hesitates. I'm looking for Dominic. Dominic Romano. He gave me this number. May I ask who's calling? Elena Martinez. He might not remember me, but please hold. There is a click, then silence. Elena's heart pounds in her chest as she waits, suddenly convinced that this was a mistake, that she misread the situation, that Dominic was just being polite and never expected her to actually call. Then his voice comes through the line, low and familiar. Elena, I was hoping I'd hear from you. Relief floods through her, so powerful it makes her dizzy. You remember me? Of course I remember you. There is warmth in his tone, but also something else, concern. Are you all right? Are you safe? I'm in a hotel. I left Marcus that night after we talked. I haven't been back. Good, that's good. A pause. Have you eaten today? The question catches her off guard. What? Eaten. Food. Have you had any? Elena tries to remember. She had half a sandwich yesterday, maybe. Some coffee this morning. I'm fine. That's not an answer. She can almost hear him frowning through the phone. Where are you staying? She tells him, and there is a moment of silence. I'm sending a car, Dominic says. It'll be there in 20 minutes. I want you to get in and let it bring you somewhere safe. Safe? Safer than where you are now. Marcus Whitfield has connections, Elena. If he wants to find you, a hotel under your real name is the first place. He'll look. Ice runs through Elena's veins. She had not thought of that. She checked in with her driver's license, used her credit card to hold the room. She might as well have left a trail of breadcrumbs. How do you know about Marcus's connections? She asks. Another pause, longer this time. I know a lot of things about a lot of people. It's part of my business. Get in the car, Elena. I'll explain everything when you arrive. The line goes dead. Elena stares at the phone for a long moment, her mind racing. Every instinct she has tells her that this is crazy, that getting into a stranger's car and letting it take her to an unknown location is exactly the kind of thing that ends badly. But another part of her, the part that sat in that cafe and felt seen for the first time in years, trusts Dominic Romano. Against all logic, against all common sense, she trusts him. She gathers her few belongings into her bag and heads down to the lobby to wait. The car arrives exactly 20 minutes. Later, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows. The driver is a middle-aged man with a polite smile and a professional demeanor. He opens the back door for Elena without a word. Where are we going? She asks as she slides inside. To Mr. Romano's residence, ma'am. It's about a 40-minute drive. The car pulls away from the hotel and merges into traffic. Elena watches the city pass by through the tinted glass, the familiar landmarks of downtown giving way to residential neighborhoods, then to the wealthy enclaves of the North Shore. The houses grow larger and more elaborate, surrounded by walls and gates and the kind of manicured landscaping that requires a full-time staff to maintain. Finally, the car turns onto a private road and approaches a gate flanked by stone pillars. The driver speaks into an intercom and the gate slides open silently. They continue up a winding driveway lined with oak trees, their branches bare in the November cold, until the house comes into view. It is not a house. It is an estate. 3 stories of grey stone and glass, modern and elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows that look out over a vast lawn sloping down to a private lake. The architecture is clean and minimalist, nothing like the ostentatious McMansions that Marcus always admired. This building whispers wealth rather than shouting it. The car stops at the front entrance, and a man in a dark suit opens Elena's door. He is young, maybe late 20s, with sharp features and watchful eyes that miss nothing. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm Vincent. Mr. Romano asked me to escort you inside." Elena follows Vincent through the front door and into a foyer that takes her breath away. The ceiling soars 2 stories high, with a massive abstract sculpture suspended in the center like frozen lightning. The floors are polished concrete, the walls lined with art that Elena does not recognize but instinctively knows is valuable. "This way, please." Vincent leads her through a series of rooms, each more impressive than the last. A formal living room with leather sofas and a fireplace large enough to stand in. A library with walls of books from floor to ceiling. A dining room with a table that could seat 20. Finally, they arrive at a set of glass doors that open onto a covered terrace overlooking the lake. Dominic is waiting there, standing at a railing with his hands in his pockets, watching the grey water ripple in the wind. He turns as Elena approaches, and something shifts in his expression. Relief, perhaps, or satisfaction, or something deeper that she cannot name. "You came," he says. "You sent a car. I wasn't sure you'd get in it." Eleanor crosses her arms, suddenly aware of how out of place she must look in this world of wealth and power. "I almost didn't, but then I thought about what you said, about Marcus's connections, about how he could find me." Dominic nods slowly. He's already looking. He filed a missing persons report this morning. "What?" "He's claiming you had a mental breakdown and disappeared. He's worried about your safety." The irony in Dominic's voice is sharp. He's very convincing. The police are taking it seriously. Eleanor feels the ground shift beneath her feet. Of course Marcus would do something like this. Of course he would twist the narrative to make her look unstable, to make himself look like the concerned husband. It is exactly the kind of move he's been making for their entire marriage. "I'm not crazy," she says. "I'm not having a breakdown. I just left. I know that. But the authorities don't, and more importantly, Marcus's lawyers don't. If they find you before you have a chance to tell your side of the story, he could have you committed, or at least make your life very, very difficult." The implications sink in slowly. Marcus is not just trying to find her. He is trying to destroy her, to discredit her, to make sure that if she ever tries to leave him publicly, no one will believe a word she says. "What do I do?" Eleanor asks, hating how small her voice sounds. Dominic turns to face her fully, his grey eyes serious. "You let me help you. You stay here, where my people can keep you safe. You work with my lawyers to build a case for divorce that Marcus can't worm his way out of. And you trust me when I tell you that by the time this is over, Marcus Whitfield will never be able to hurt you again." It is a lot to take in. Too much, maybe. Elena's head is spinning with questions and doubts, and the nagging voice that tells her she should be more suspicious of a man who barely knows her, but is offering to upend his entire life on her behalf. "Why?" she asks. "Why would you do all this for me?" Dominic is quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on hers with an intensity that makes it impossible to look away. "Because I've seen what men like Marcus do to the people they claim to love," he says finally. "Because I've watched it destroy someone I cared about, and I swore I would never stand by and let it happen again if I had the power to stop it." He pauses. "And because you walked into that cafe looking like the world had beaten you down, and you still had enough fight in your eyes to keep going. That means something." Eleanor does not know what to say. No one has ever spoken to her like this, with this much conviction, this much certainty. It is terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. "Okay," she says at last. "I'll stay. For now." Dominic nods, a hint of a smile touching his lips. "Good. Vincent will show you to your room. Get some rest, Elena. Tomorrow we start fighting back." He walks past her into the house, and Elena is left standing on the terrace, staring out at the lake. The water is dark and still, reflecting the grey November sky. In the distance a bird calls, lonely and haunting. She thinks about everything that has happened in the past 3 days. Walking out of Marcus's party, meeting Dominic in the cafe, checking into the hotel, getting into the car, standing here now in the home of a man she barely knows, but who sees her in ways her husband never did. It feels like the beginning of something. Something terrifying. Something beautiful. Something that could change everything. Eleanor takes a deep breath and follows Vincent into the house. 3 weeks pass. Eleanor settles into life at Dominic's estate with surprising ease, though settled might not be the right word. Nothing about her situation feels settled. Every morning, she wakes up in the spacious guest room on the 2nd floor, with its views of the lake and its crisp white linens, and spends a few seconds remembering where she is and how she got here. Then reality comes flooding back, and she forces herself to get out of bed and face another day. The house is staffed by a small army of people whose purposes Elena is only beginning to understand. There is Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper, a formidable woman in her 60s who runs the domestic operations with military precision. There is Carlos, the cook, a jovial man from Mexico who insists on feeding Elena 3 meals a day, whether she is hungry or not. There is Vincent, who seems to function as some kind of assistant or bodyguard to Dominic, always nearby, but never intrusive. And then there is Dominic himself. He is gone most days, attending to business matters that he never fully explains. When he is home, they share meals together, long conversations that range from philosophy to film to childhood memories. Elena learns that he grew up poor in South Chicago, the son of immigrants who worked themselves to exhaustion to give their children a better life. She learns that his father died when he was 16, that he had to drop out of school to support his mother and sister, that everything he has been built through sheer determination and ruthless ambition. What he does not tell her, not in so many words, is how he built his empire. But Elena is not stupid. She sees the men who come and go at odd hours, speaks in whispers, treats Dominic with a deference that borders on fear. She overhears fragments of conversations about shipments and territories and problems that need to be handled. She notices the way Vincent's hand sometimes moves toward his hip, as if reaching for something that is not there. She knows what Dominic is, or rather, she suspects, and her suspicions grow stronger with each passing day. But here is the strange thing. It does not scare her. Maybe it should. Maybe she should be running from this house, from this man, from the dangerous world he inhabits. But Elena has lived with a different kind of danger for 8 years, the kind that wears a suit and attends charity galas and destroys you slowly from the inside out. Compared to that, Dominic's brand of darkness seems almost honest. At least with him, she knows the monster exists. Marcus spent their entire marriage pretending to be something he was not. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, slowly. Dominic's lawyers are the best money can buy, a team of sharks in designer suits who are methodically dismantling Marcus's financial defenses. They have already uncovered evidence of hidden accounts, fraudulent tax filings, and business deals that skirt the edge of legality. More importantly, they have documented years of emotional manipulation, carefully building a case that Marcus cannot simply charm his way out of. Marcus, for his part, is not going quietly. His missing persons report was dismissed after Elena gave a statement to the police, but he has moved on to other tactics. He has frozen their joint bank accounts. He has contested every document, every claim, every request. He has given interviews to local media portraying himself as a devoted husband whose wife abandoned him without explanation. The public narrative is shifting against Elena, and there is nothing she can do about it, except wait. It is during one of these waiting periods, on a Tuesday afternoon in early December, that Eleanor discovers something about Dominic's house that changes everything. She is exploring, which she has taken to doing when the walls feel like they are closing in. The estate is vast enough that she still finds new rooms, new corridors, new secrets. Today, she has wandered into the West Wing, an area she has not visited before. The hallway is quiet, lined with doors that are mostly closed, leading to guest rooms and storage spaces and other mysterious purposes. At the end of the hall, one door, stands slightly open. Light spills through the gap, catching Elena's attention. She should walk away. She knows she should. But curiosity has always been her weakness, the part of her that gets her into trouble. She pushes the door open and steps inside. It is a bedroom, smaller than hers, but no less elegant. The walls are painted a soft pink, and the furniture is scaled down, sized for a child. There are stuffed animals on the bed, books on the shelves, drawings pinned to a corkboard above a small desk. And in the center of the room, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a sketchpad in her lap, is a little girl. She looks up as Elena enters, her dark eyes wide with surprise. She is maybe 7 or 8 years old, with curly black hair pulled back in 2 puffs, and a face that is startlingly familiar. Those eyes, that jawline, that expression of guarded curiosity. She looks like Dominic. "Who are you?" the girl asks. Her voice is steady, unafraid. She has her father's composure, Elena thinks, and then her father. "I'm Elena," she says, kneeling down so they are at the same level. "I'm staying here for a little while. What's your name?" "Sophia." The girl studies her with an intensity that is disconcerting coming from someone so young. "Are you my dad's girlfriend?" Elena feels her face flush. "No, I'm just a friend. Your dad is helping me with something." Sophia nods, apparently satisfied with this explanation. "Daddy helps a lot of people. That's his job." "Is it?" "That's what he says." Sophia returns her attention to her sketchpad, dismissing Elena as efficiently as any adult might. "I'm drawing the lake. Do you want to see?" Elena moves closer and looks at the drawing. It is surprisingly good for a child her age, showing a real sense of composition and color. The lake stretches across the page, gray and blue and silver, with bare trees reaching toward a cloudy sky. "That's beautiful," Elena says, and means it. "Thank you." Sophia adds another careful stroke of blue. "I like to draw when I'm sad. It makes me feel better." "Why are you sad?" The question slips out before Elena can stop it, and she immediately regrets asking. But Sophia just shrugs, as if sadness is as normal as breathing. "My mum went away," she says simply, "a long time ago. Sometimes I still miss her." Elena's heart cracks open. She knows that feeling, the absence that never quite fades, the longing for someone who is no longer there. She felt it when her own mother died, and again when Marcus systematically cut her off from everyone she loved. "I'm sorry," Elena says. "I know what it's like to miss someone." Sophia looks up at her, those dark eyes suddenly piercing. "Do you have a mum?" "Not anymore. She passed away a few years ago." "That's sad." Sophia is quiet for a moment. "But at least you got to have her for a while." Some people don't even get that. The wisdom in those words coming from such a young mouth takes Elena's breath away. This child has seen too much, understood too much. She has been shaped by loss in ways that no child should have to be. "Sophia?" Dominic's voice comes from the doorway, and both Elena and the girl turn to look at him. He is standing in the entrance, his expression unreadable, his eyes moving between his daughter and the woman kneeling beside her. "Daddy!" Sophia jumps up and runs to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. He catches her effortlessly, lifting her into his arms as if she weighs nothing. "What are you doing out of your room, Piccola?" he asks, his voice soft in a way Elena has never heard before. "Mrs. Chen said you were taking a nap." "I wasn't tired, and then Elena came to visit." Sophia looks back at Elena with a smile. "She's nice, Daddy. Can she stay?" Dominic meets Elena's eyes over his daughter's head. There is something complicated in his gaze, a mix of emotions that she cannot quite decipher. "We'll see," he says. "Now go find Mrs. Chen and ask her for a snack. I need to talk to Elena alone." Sophia nods and wriggles out of his arms, pausing at the door to wave goodbye to Elena before disappearing down the hallway. The silence that follows is heavy with unspoken questions. "You didn't tell me you had a daughter," Elena says finally. "I don't tell most people." Dominic moves into the room, picking up one of Sophia's drawings from the desk and studying it. It's safer that way. Safer for who? For her. He sets the drawing down and turns to face Elena. My world is dangerous, Elena. You've probably figured that out by now. There are people who would hurt Sophia just to get to me. Keeping her existence quiet is the only way I can protect her. Elena absorbs this, adding it to the growing picture she has of Dominic Romano, crime boss, philanthropist, father. Each revelation adds another layer to a man who refuses to be easily categorized. Her mother, Elena asks, died when Sophia was 3. Cancer. The word falls like a stone into still water. I raised her alone after that. With help, obviously, but alone in all the ways that matter. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. But his eyes say otherwise. Some wounds never fully heal. They just become part of the landscape. She's remarkable, Elena says. Sophia, I mean. The way she talks, the way she sees things, she's special. Something shifts in Dominic's expression, a softening that Elena has not seen before. She's the best thing I've ever done, he says quietly. Everything else, the money, the power, the empire, it means nothing compared to her. Elena believes him. For the first time since she arrived at this house, she truly believes she understands Dominic Romano. He is not just a powerful man playing games with other powerful men. He is a father protecting his child, doing whatever it takes to build a world where she can be safe. It is the same thing Elena would have done if she had ever had the chance. Can I spend time with her? Elena asks. While I'm here, I think we might be good for each other. Dominic considers this for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nods. She could use a friend, he admits. Someone who isn't paid to take care of her. Someone who doesn't see her as a liability or an asset. Just someone who sees her as a kid. I can do that. I know you can. He holds her gaze, and something passes between them. A recognition, an understanding, a connection that goes deeper than words. That's why I'm saying yes. From that day forward, Eleanor and Sophia become inseparable. They draw together, read together, watch movies together, build elaborate blanket forts in the living room that Mrs. Chen pretends to disapprove of, but secretly photographs. Sophia teaches Eleanor about her favorite books and shows, while Eleanor tells her stories about working in the hospital, about the babies she helped bring into the world, about the families she watched grow. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something changes in the house. The atmosphere lightens. Laughter echoes through halls that have been too quiet for too long. Even Dominic, who spends most of his days dealing with problems that Eleanor cannot imagine, seems different. More relaxed, more present, more human. One evening, as Eleanor tucks Sophia into bed after reading her a story, the little girl grabs her hand and holds it tight. Eleanor. Yes, sweetheart. Are you going to stay? Forever, I mean. The question pierces Eleanor's heart like an arrow. She does not know how to answer. Her divorce is still pending. Her future is still uncertain. She does not even know what forever would look like in a situation like this. But she looks down at Sophia's hopeful face, and she knows what she wants to say. I'm going to stay as long as I can, she promises. And no matter what happens, I'll always be your friend. Okay? Sophia nods, satisfied. Okay. She closes her eyes and is asleep within minutes, leaving Elena sitting beside her bed in the soft glow of the nightlight. Elena watches her breathe. This child who has lost so much and loves so fiercely, and feels something shift inside her own chest. It is not just friendship she feels for Sophia. It is something deeper, something maternal, something that has been dormant inside her for years, waiting for a chance to bloom. She does not hear Dominic enter the room, does not know he is there, until he speaks. She loves you, he says softly. Eleanor turns to find him standing in the doorway, watching. Them with an expression that makes her pulse quicken. I love her too, she admits. I didn't expect to. But I do. Dominic moves to stand beside her, looking down at his sleeping daughter. In the dim light, his face is softer, younger, stripped of the armor he wears in his daily life. "She hasn't connected with anyone like this since her mother died," he says. "I was starting to worry she never would." "She just needed someone to see her," Elena says. "Really see her. Not as a responsibility or a complication. Just as herself." Dominic turns to look at her, and suddenly they are very close. Close enough that she can see the flecks of silver in his grey eyes, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Someone like you," he says. "Someone like me." The air between them shifts, charged with something neither of them has acknowledged until now. Elena's heart hammers in her chest, and she is acutely aware of every inch of space between them, or rather, the lack of it. Before I continue this story, I want to pause and ask you something. If this moment is making your heart beat faster, if you're feeling what Elena is feeling right now, then leave a comment below with the words, "I believe in second chances." Let me know you're here. Let me know you're feeling this story the way I felt it when I wrote it. The moment stretches between them, fragile and electric. Then Dominic takes a step back, breaking the spell. "Get some rest," he says, his voice slightly rougher than before. "We have a busy day tomorrow." He leaves without another word, and Elena is left standing alone in the quiet of Sophia's room, her heart still pounding, her mind spinning with possibilities. Something is changing between them, something that cannot be ignored much longer, and for the first time in a very long time, Elena is not afraid of what comes next. Christmas arrives at the Romano estate like an unexpected guest. Elena did not expect to still be here for the holidays, but the divorce proceedings have hit yet another snag, this time involving property disputes that Marcus is contesting with particular viciousness. The lawyers assure her that they will prevail, that the evidence is on her side, that it is only a matter of time. But time moves slowly when your entire life is in limbo, so she spends Christmas in a mansion that belongs to a man she is falling for, with a child she has come to love, surrounded by people who have become something like family. Mrs. Chen orchestrates the decorations with her usual efficiency, transforming the house into a winter wonderland of lights and garlands and a 12-foot tree in the main living room. Carlos prepares a feast that could feed an army, complete with tamales alongside the traditional turkey, a fusion of his heritage and Sophia's requests. Even Vincent, normally so stoic and professional, wears a Santa hat that Sophia insisted he put on. And Dominic. Dominic is different during the holidays. He takes time off from his mysterious business, spending his days at home with his daughter, playing games and watching movies and being present in a way that Elena has not seen before. The tension that usually lines his shoulders is gone, replaced by something softer, something almost joyful. On Christmas morning, they gather in the living room to open presents. Sophia tears through her gifts with the enthusiasm of any child her age, squealing over a new art set, a stack of books, a beautiful dress that Elena secretly helped pick out. But her favorite gift, the one that makes her eyes fill with happy tears, is a locket with a picture of her mother inside. "I found it in storage," Dominic explains, his voice thick. "I thought you should have it." Sophia throws her arms around him and does not let go for a very long time. Later, after the gifts have been opened and the wrapping paper cleared away, Dominic hands Elena a small wrapped box. "For you," he says. Elena stares at it, surprised. She had not expected a gift. She is still technically a guest here, a temporary presence passing through on her way to somewhere else. "Open it," Sophia urges, bouncing with excitement. Inside the box is a bracelet, simple, elegant, a thin gold chain with a single charm, a butterfly. "For new beginnings," Dominic says, "and for the courage to spread your wings." Eleanor's eyes burn with tears she refuses to let fall. She thinks about everything she has been through, everything she has lost, everything she has found in this unexpected place, and she realizes that for the first time in years she feels hope. "Thank you," she whispers. "It's perfect." She puts on the bracelet, and the weight of it on her wrist feels like a promise. The rest of Christmas Day passes in a warm blur. There is food and laughter and music, a sense of celebration that Elena had forgotten was possible. She watches Dominic play with his daughter, watches him relax and smile and be present, and she feels something growing in her chest that she does not dare name. That night, after Sophia has been put to bed, Elena finds herself alone with Dominic on the terrace, wrapped in blankets and watching the snow fall over the lake. "Thank you," she says, "for all of this, for the bracelet, for including me in your family's Christmas, for everything." Dominic does not look at her. He keeps his eyes on the snow, on the dark water, on the vast emptiness of the winter sky. "You're not just included, Elena," he says. "You belong. Here. Whether you realize it or not, you've become part of this family." "Dominic." "I know." He finally turns to face her, and his expression is raw in a way she has never seen. "I know there are 1,000 reasons why this doesn't make sense. I know you're still married, still fighting for your freedom, still figuring out who you are outside of Marcus Whitfield's shadow. I know I'm not exactly the safest choice for someone who wants a normal life." "I don't want a normal life," Elena says, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. "I've had normal. Normal was pretending everything was fine while my husband destroyed me from the inside out. Normal was smiling through pain and crying alone in the bathroom and never letting anyone see how broken I really was." She takes a breath, steadying herself. "What I want," she continues, "is real. I want something that's honest, even if it's complicated. I want someone who sees me, all of me, the broken parts and the healing parts, and everything in between." She meets his eyes, holding nothing back. "I want you." The words hang in the cold air between them, vulnerable and true. Dominic is silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reaches out and takes her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "I want you too," he says. "I've wanted you since the night you walked into that cafe, soaking wet and furious, and absolutely beautiful. I told myself it was just compassion, just the desire to help someone who needed it. But it was more than that. It was always more than that. Then what are we waiting for? Your freedom." He brings her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "I won't be the thing that complicates your divorce. I won't give Marcus ammunition to use against you. So we wait. We take this slow. And when you're finally free of him, when you can choose me without any shadows hanging over us, then what?" Dominic smiles, a real smile, the kind that transforms his entire face. "Then I'm going, to spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice." Elena leans into him, resting her head on his shoulder, and they stay there for hours, watching the snow fall and dreaming of a future that finally seems possible. January brings chaos. It starts with a phone call late at night, Dominic's voice sharp with tension as he speaks rapidly in Italian to someone on the other end. Elena watches from the doorway of his study, unable to understand the words but reading the danger in his posture. When he hangs up, his face is pale. "What happened?" she asks. "Marcus," Dominic says the name like a curse. "He's been doing some digging. He found out where you are, and he's hired people to bring you back." Elena's stomach drops. "What kind of people?" "The kind that don't take no for an answer." Dominic moves to his desk, pressing a button that Elena has never noticed before. Within seconds, Vincent appears in the doorway, fully alert despite the late hour. "We have a situation," Dominic says. "Get the team together. I want a full security sweep, doubled patrols, and eyes on the perimeter 24/7. No one gets in or out without my knowing about it." Vincent nods and disappears. Elena sinks into a chair, her mind racing. "How did he find me? We've been so careful." "Marcus has resources," Dominic says grimly. "More than I realized. And he's clearly more obsessed with controlling you than I gave him credit for." "What do we do?" Dominic kneels in front of her, taking her hands in his. "We fight," he says. "We use every weapon we have, legal and otherwise. We make sure that Marcus Whitfield understands, once and for all, that you are not his property, that you will never be his property again. And if that doesn't work, then I handle it my way. The darkness in his voice should frighten Elena. Instead, it makes her feel safe, protected, like for the first time in her life, someone is willing to fight for her without reservation. I trust you, she says. I know. He presses a kiss to her forehead. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we go to war. But sleep does not come. Eleanor lies awake in her room, listening to the sounds of the house preparing for siege. Footsteps in the hallway, whispered conversations, the quiet click of weapons being checked and loaded. She thinks about Marcus, about the man she married and the monster he became. She thinks about all the years she spent afraid, the years she lost trying to make a bad marriage work. She thinks about what she would do if he actually succeeded in taking her back, and she realizes, with a clarity that surprises her, that she would rather die than return to that life. The thought should terrify her. Instead, it fills her with resolve. She gets out of bed, pulls on a robe, and goes to find Dominic. He is in his study, surrounded by men in dark suits, maps spread across the desk, phones buzzing with constant updates. When he sees her in the doorway, he excuses himself and comes to her side. You should be resting, he says. I can't rest. Not with all this happening because of me. None of this is because of you. It's because of Marcus. Because he's a controlling, dangerous man who refuses to let go of what he thinks belongs to him. Dominic cups her face in his hands. You're not to blame for his sickness, Elena. You never were. I want to help, she says. I can't just sit in my room waiting for something to happen. Tell me what I can do. Dominic studies her for a long moment, then nods slowly. All right, he says. There is something. The plan is elegant in its simplicity. Marcus's hired men have been watching the estate for days, looking for vulnerabilities, patterns, weaknesses they can exploit. What they do not know is that Dominic has been watching them right back. We let them think they've found a way in, Dominic explains the next morning, gathered around the dining table with his most trusted lieutenants. We give them a window of opportunity that looks real but is actually a trap. When they move, we move. And when it's over, we have evidence of their intent that even Marcus's lawyers can't deny. What about me? Elena asks. You're the bait. The word hangs in the air, heavy with implication. Before you say no, Dominic continues quickly, let me explain. You'll be completely safe. Vincent and 3 of my best men will be with you at all times, just out of sight. The moment Marcus's people make a move, we intervene. You won't be in any real danger. But they have to believe they have a chance, Elena says, understanding. They have to commit to the plan before you can catch them. Exactly. Elena considers this. The old her, the one who lived under Marcus's control, would never have agreed to something so risky. But she is not that person anymore. She has spent too many years being a victim. It is time to be something else. I'll do it, she says. The operation takes 3 days to set up. Eleanor continues. Her normal routine, spending time with Sophia, eating meals with the household, occasionally venturing into the garden despite the cold. To anyone watching, she looks like a woman settling into a comfortable new life, unaware of the danger closing in around her. But behind the scenes, Dominic's people are everywhere. Hidden cameras, listening devices, men positioned at strategic points throughout the property. It is a web of surveillance that Elena finds both impressive and slightly unsettling. On the 3rd night, the trap is sprung. Elena is in the library reading by the fire when she hears the faint sound of breaking glass from somewhere in the house. Her heart leaps into her throat, but she forces herself to stay calm, to keep reading, to appear oblivious. Footsteps approach. The door to the library opens. 2 men step inside, dressed in black, faces covered with ski masks. They move with professional efficiency, clearly experienced in this kind of work. Mrs. Whitfield, one of them says. Your husband wants you home. Eleanor sets down her book with steady hands. My name is Martinez, and I'm not going anywhere with you. The men exchange glances. One of them pulls out a syringe. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, he says. Your choice. Elena opens her mouth to respond, but before she can speak, the library explodes into chaos. Vincent appears from behind a hidden panel in the wall, moving with lethal precision. Two more of Dominic's men crash through the windows. The masked intruders barely have time to react before they are subdued, pinned to the ground, weapons stripped away. It is over in less than 30 seconds. Dominic appears in the doorway, his expression cold as winter. Take them to the warehouse, he orders. I want to know everything. Who hired them? How they got in, what their orders were. The men are dragged away, and then it is just Elena and Dominic, alone in the library with the broken glass and the lingering tension. Are you all right? He asks, crossing to her side. I'm fine. Elena's voice shakes slightly, the adrenaline finally catching up with her. That was intense. I know. I'm sorry you had to be part of it. Don't be. She meets his eyes, and despite everything, she manages a smile. I told you I wanted to help. This is what helping looks like. Dominic pulls her into his arms, and Elena lets herself be held, lets the fear and tension drain away, replaced by the solid warmth of his embrace. It's almost over, he murmurs into her hair. One more push and Marcus will never be able to touch you again. How can you be so sure? Because the men we caught are going to sing like canaries once my people talk to them, and because I have a friend in the federal prosecutor's office who has been looking for a reason to investigate Marcus Whitfield for years. Dominic pulls back, his hands on her shoulders, his grey eyes burning with conviction. By this time next week, your husband will be facing charges for conspiracy, harassment, and attempted kidnapping. His empire is going to crumble, and there won't be a thing he can do to stop it. Elena wants to believe him. She wants it so badly that she can taste it. And if he finds a way out, she asks, if his lawyers manage to spin this like they always do, they won't. Dominic's voice is steel. I won't let them. The next few days are a blur of legal maneuvering and careful strategy. Dominic's lawyers work around the clock, coordinating with the federal prosecutor, building a case that even Marcus cannot wriggle out of. The men who tried to kidnap Elena provide detailed testimony, naming Marcus as the mastermind and describing the payment they received, the instructions they were given, the violence they were authorized to use. The evidence is overwhelming. On a grey Thursday morning, Marcus Whitfield is arrested at his downtown Chicago office, perp-walked in front of cameras in full view of the business associates he spent his life trying to impress. The footage plays on every local news station, and Elena watches it from the safety of Dominic's study, feeling something she thought she might never feel again. Freedom. The divorce is finalized 2 weeks later. Elena walks out of the courthouse a single woman, her bracelet glinting in the winter sun, her future stretching before her like an open road. Dominic is waiting for her on the steps. How do you feel? He asks. Elena thinks about the question seriously. How does she feel? Relieved, certainly. Exhausted, grateful, hopeful. Like I'm finally myself again, she says. Like the person I was supposed to be has been waiting all this time, and now she finally gets to exist. Dominic smiles that rare, transformative smile. I'm glad, he says, because I have something I want to ask you. What is it? He takes her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. Come home with me, he says. Not as a guest, not as someone I'm protecting. Come home with me as my partner, my equal, the woman I love. Elena's breath catches. You love me. I've loved you since the moment you walked into that cafe, Dominic admits. I was just waiting for the right time to tell you. And now is the right time. Now is the only time that matters. Elena looks at this man, this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who has given her everything and asked for nothing in return. She thinks about the life she could have with him, the challenges and the joys, the darkness and the light. And she knows her answer. Yes, she says. Yes, I'll come home with you. Dominic sweeps her into his arms, kissing her deeply, and Elena tastes freedom and possibility and the first day of the rest of her life. 6 months later, spring has transformed the Romano estate into a garden of renewal. The trees that were bare when Elena first arrived are now heavy with green leaves, their branches swaying in the warm breeze. The lake shimmers under a clear blue sky, reflecting the light, like scattered diamonds. The air smells of fresh flowers and cut grass and something indefinably hopeful. Elena stands on the terrace, looking out at the view that has become so familiar, so beloved. She is wearing a simple white dress, her hair loose around her shoulders, Dominic's butterfly bracelet on her wrist. Sophia is by her side, practically vibrating with excitement. "Are you nervous?" the little girl asks. Elena smiles. "A little, are you?" "No way. I've been waiting for this forever." Sophia bounces on her toes. "I can't believe you're going to be my mom for real." The words still send a thrill through Elena's heart. Mom. It is not a title she ever expected to have, not after all those years with Marcus, all the dreams she had to abandon. But Sophia filled a space in her life that she did not know was empty, and the adoption papers they signed last month made it official. She is a mother now, and in a few minutes, she will be a wife. The ceremony is small and intimate, held in the garden with only the people who matter most. Mrs. Chen cries happy tears from her seat in the front row. Carlos and Vincent stand by Dominic's side as groomsmen. Even some of Dominic's business associates are here, men whose names Eleanor does not ask about, but who clearly respect their boss enough to celebrate his happiness. When the music begins, Eleanor walks down the aisle on her own, needing no one to give her away. She has given herself away too many times in her life. This time, she is choosing freely, openly, with full knowledge of who she is becoming and who she is joining. Dominic watches her approach, his grey eyes shining with an emotion that makes everything else fade away. He is wearing a dark suit that fits him perfectly, looking every inch the powerful man he is, but Elena sees something else in his face: vulnerability, gratitude, love. When she reaches him, he takes her hands in his, and the minister begins to speak. The vows they exchange are ones they wrote themselves, private words that speak to their particular journey. "I promise to see you," Elena says, "not the image you project to the world, but the real you, the father, the protector, the man who walked into a cafe on a rainy night and changed my life. I promise to keep you safe," Dominic says, "not by controlling you, but by standing beside you. I promise to love you in the light and in the darkness, in the easy times and the hard ones, for as long as I draw breath." They exchange rings. They seal their vows with a kiss, and when the minister pronounces them husband and wife, a cheer goes up from the small crowd that echoes across the water and into the sky. The reception is joyful and slightly chaotic, full of food and music and dancing. Eleanor finds herself passed from partner to partner, laughing at jokes she only half understands, accepting congratulations from people she barely knows. But through it all, her eyes keep finding Dominic, and his keep finding hers. Late in the evening when the guests have started to drift away, Eleanor slips outside to catch her breath. She walks down to the edge of the lake, letting the cool water lap at her bare feet, watching the moon rise over the trees. Footsteps behind her. She does not need to turn around to know who it is. "Running away already," Dominic teases, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Never." Eleanor leans back into his embrace, just taking a moment to remember. Remember what? Who I was when I first came. Here, broken, scared, alone. She turns in his arms, looking up at his beloved face. "And who I am now?" "Who are you now?" Elena smiles, the answer coming easily for the first time in her life. "I'm home," she says. "I'm finally home." Dominic kisses her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "Welcome home, Mrs. Romano." They stand together at the edge of the lake, two people who found each other against all odds, who built something beautiful from the ruins of their pasts. The water reflects the moon, and the stars and the lights from the house, creating a mirror of infinite possibility. Behind them in the house, Sophia presses her face to the window, watching her parents with a smile that holds no shadows. And in the distance, the city of Chicago glitters on the horizon, full of darkness and light, danger and beauty, endings and beginnings. Elena thinks about everything that led her to this moment. The years of pain, the night she walked out, the stranger in the cafe who turned out to be her destiny. She thinks about all the ways her story could have ended differently, all the paths she did not take, and she is grateful. Grateful for the courage to leave, grateful for the chance to heal, grateful for the family she found in the most unexpected place. Some stories end in tragedy, but this one, against all odds, ends in something better. This one ends in love. If you've watched this far, it's because you liked this story. Leave a comment saying, "I've watched this far," so I can get to know you and see who really enjoys the stories here on the channel. And if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in these stories, and thank you for reminding me why I tell them. Check if you're already subscribed to this channel, because there are more stories like this one waiting for you. Stories of courage, of love, of people who refuse to give up even when the world gives them every reason to. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, no matter how dark the night, dawn is always coming. This is not just a story, this is a promise, and we keep our promises here. And we